Good morning. This is Dr. McDaniel. I'm a board certified obstetrician gynecologist in New York City, and I'm bringing to you all things health related for women. Thank you for joining me at the corner today. And let's see, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, follow buttons on our Facebook page, GYN Corner, the YouTube page, which is also GYN Corner, and our podcast. We're on all of the potential platforms for podcasts, so make sure you check those out. And also, please place questions or topics or ideas for future presentations if you'd like to hear me speak on something else. And as I said today, we're talking about boob rash. So I get a lot of women throughout the year who come in concerned about a rash that they've noticed underneath their breast. So if you have, I'm going to call mature breast, which are breasts that sag a little bit. So if you have mature breast, if you lift up the breast, sometimes when it's warm outside or humid, or if you've been exercising or doing a lot of activity, if you lift that boob up underneath the boob, it's going to be a little bit sweaty. So some women have come in because they're concerned. They have I was going to say a rash. So to me, it's a rash, but sometimes they'll note that it's darker or it's red and itchy underneath the breast. And sometimes it comes up in between the breast, so in the cleavage area. And that's what medically we call that a contact dermatitis. And what it is, it's because skin likes to be cool, clean, and dry. Now, if you have two areas of skin juxtaposed, so they're placed on each other, then you're going to have sweat and moisture that will build up. It's going to stay wet. And if it stays wet, skin doesn't like to be wet. It can break down. That it can cause the rash, sores, swelling, burning, can get really bad, even slight ulcerations or paper cuts. So that's called a contact dermatitis. So anytime you have your skin with something that does not agree with the skin, any kind of wetness, it can be sweat, it can be urine, it can be poop in the genital area, it could be vaginal discharge, but if it's constantly wet, that's going to mount an inflammatory response. So that's an irritant. And when that irritant persists, the skin responds by trying to defend itself. So the inflammatory response, the immune system comes there to try to fight off the irritant, and then the skin tries to defend itself from breaking down by getting thicker. So what will often happen is, if it's kind of a recent and acute response, will be it gets red, swollen, and itchy. If someone's been dealing with this for a long time, then that inflammatory response turns into basically a defense mechanism. So the layer of skin gets thicker and thicker, and you have what we call post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So the color of the skin, the pigment, increases. So it gets darker and kind of an ashen look, where the skin is actually thicker, similar to if someone has long-standing or kind of a bad eczema reaction. So it gets darker and thicker in response to that chronic hostile environment, which is the inflammatory environment. So I guess the upshot is, it's just a response to the skin constantly being wet. It's how your body responds to an unhappy situation. So ways to try to prevent that or to treat it would be to obviously not let the skin get wet. So if you're in a situation where you're sweating a lot or you have a lot of activity, a lot of women already know, they can apply like a talcum powder, a baby powder, or cornstarch to try to minimize the sweat buildup. Or what I've told people to do is just to cut, maybe get your underwear or t-shirt, cut a thin layer of that cotton, put it under the breast of that area so it can soak up the moisture. Or just when you finish exercising, just wipe down really well, put a thin film of Vaseline. You can put a thin film of Vaseline to protect the skin before you have the activity or you're going out, or afterwards. Dry it off, put a thin film to protect the skin. those are the biggest ones. I have had patients actually apply underarm deodorant because, certain deodorants are only going to be perfumes. They're deodorants. Others are going to be antiperspirant. So they've applied a thin film of an antiperspirant. That's another possibility. Last but not least, you could go to the drugstore. 1% hydrocortisone is non-prescription. You can just apply a thin film of 1% hydrocortisone after you've been sweating a lot or after activities, and that will minimize that response, that inflammatory response. So I hope that's been helpful information on boob rash, which is that rash that can occur underneath the layer or the skin, juxtaposed skin of mature, slightly saggy breast. Thank you for joining me at the corner today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.